In this video, I want to highlight the most interesting facts about the 2021 housing market, and then I'll share the trends that I'm most interested in following over the course of 2022 and how I see them playing out at this point. But hey, Michael, it's March. Why now? Yes, I know. I had great plans to get this video made earlier and other videos. That got derailed by a newborn baby, totally worth it. And then the whole family getting COVID, totally not worth it. But there is so much to unpack from what was a historic year, and looking forward to the same thing here, another historic year. Hi, I'm Michael.majchrowicz with Coldwell Banker Realty, and I'd love to hear your questions about how you might be able to take advantage of this housing market cycle, and even if you're just interested in real estate home improvement in general. My contact information is below. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped out, and let's jump in. Now, what made 2021 so interesting is this unprecedented level of competition in the housing market. That was driven by low interest rates, very few properties for sale, and people's priorities changing because of COVID. And by that, I mean, I think a focus on single family homes instead of townhouses and condos. The median sales price increased nearly 14% in Silicon Valley year over year. An example of this, the first property that I had on the market in January was Venado Way. Beautifully remodeled, great Blossom Valley location. I knew it would be a popular home, but I didn't have many comparable sales to go off of in terms of the expected price because the inventory has been so low. Now, at that time, you couldn't even do open houses. It had to be by appointment only showings because of COVID. Now, we had 15-minute increment showings for almost 12-hour blocks of time every day. Every single time slot was filled. And we ended up accepting an offer before our set deadline, way over the asking price because things were becoming so chaotic. And that was January. That is when the market is supposed to be slow. Now, nearly every listing that I had over the course of the year went that way, with only a couple of exceptions. And I realized, I think the only mistake that you can make in a market this hot is overpricing a listing. Now, I saw that as we got closer to the summer, where some sellers really tried to stretch on that list price, but this limited the number of showings, it limited the number of offers, and then it ultimately limited the sales price. Now, as great as a market as this has been for sellers, it has been brutal on the buying side, which I experienced as well. I had wonderful buyers that stuck with me 1 through 8 months of heartbreak before we finally were successful. And you may have seen some of these articles of like, home sells for $1 million over the asking price. Yeah, I showed and wrote offers on a few of those. I get less caught up with how high over the list price it went, because that's an artificially low number. What isn't artificial is how far over the last comparable sale a lot of these homes went. And that's precisely why that strategy of underpricing is used. Now, I wrote an offer on a house that was listed for 1.2, and I laughed out loud when I saw the list price, because the last comparable sale was like for 1.8 million. And the house sold for 2.4 million. Then you simply don't know what to think, and you're understanding why your clients are going through so much pain and angst and exactly what they're experiencing. But I'd say in 2021, the buyers that I helped, it was as much about being a therapist as a realtor. You understand that your clients want to connect with the home enough to want to live there, and just not so much that their heart gets ripped out of their chest every time they lose out. And I saw this work the other way too. When a buyer's lost enough times and their offer is finally accepted, then they think, what's wrong with it? How did we win? Maybe we shouldn't buy this house. But this is another reason I encourage people, make sure that you're buying for the right reason, not just writing offers out of desperation. Make sure the property that you are going after, you actually want to live in and own. Now, I think what surprised me most in 2021 was how the year finished. Up until October, it was following that seasonal trend, although obviously on steroids. Those seasonal trends are that the market appreciates through the spring and summer, and prices are usually the highest in like May and June. Now, that was the case in 2021. Prices were the highest in June and dropped in July through September, which is what we would typically see. Then in October, the market kicked back into gear, and prices were as high in December as they were in June. This gave me some context of how I expected the 2022 market could go, but we'll get to that in just a second. Now, low inventory, interest rates, those played a part in the end of the year chaos in 2021. But that had been true all year long. I think the anticipation of interest rates increasing with the continued low inventory is what really continued to drive the market in the later part of last year. Now, the most important statistic, I think, in 2021 is active number of listings. I think this affects every other stat, whether it be days on market, median sales price, etc. 2018 was historically the lowest the inventory has ever been in the Bay Area, based on the stats that I have available to me. By May of 2021, we had fewer properties available than in 2018, and the market never looked back. We're now in another historic low in terms of available properties. Now, what are some of the market indicators to really get a grasp on what happened in 2021? It's been 10 years since the housing market turned around. I remember in April of 2012 thinking like, wow, finally, this market feels like it's starting to come back, feeling like it's turning around. And it came roaring back. There was a 24% increase in prices in the Silicon Valley area from 2012 to 2013. And every year, it went up more. And then from 2017 to 2018, it went up 20% in a year. This is at a point where you would have expected from past trends of 3 to 5 year cycles that the market would have already corrected and started to pull back. 2019 felt somewhat that way because the median sales price dropped 7% from the year before, and the market felt really sluggish. Then COVID hit in 2020. Now, I thought if anything is going to affect this housing market and cause a market correction, it is going to be a pandemic. And it did exactly the opposite. People thought, well, if I'm going to be stuck at home, then at least I want an extra room for an office and a backyard for the kids to hang out and do their remote learning. So prices rose again. But 2021 is back towards the top of the annual appreciation in the past 10 years with 14% increase in a single year after years of significant gains. Now, it's a year where I could honestly say prices have never been higher and there has never been a better time to sell your home. Now, I know COVID has hit some industries harder than others, but in terms of the local economy, I mean, tech is a big winner, deeply rooted in Silicon Valley. And even seeing some big name companies like Tesla, Oracle, moving their headquarters elsewhere, I mean, these companies still employ plenty of people in the Bay Area. And there's periods where every week I'd read another article of, here's another major tech company that's building, buying, leasing additional office space, specifically in San Jose too. So I don't see the Bay Area as like a Detroit where the lifeblood industry dries up and changes overnight. Now, I've read plenty of articles about how people are fleeing California. I even made a video about it, but clearly not enough for it to have an impact on our housing market in 2021. From my personal experience, many of the sellers are the same sellers that have been selling over the course of the past 10 years. People retiring and following family to wherever they ended up, which is usually out of state. Now, the most frequent conversation that I've had over the past 10 years is the same one that I'm having today. I would love to sell and take advantage of the equity that I have in my home, but where do I go to next? This is another video series that I'm working on. Now, ultimately, I think the people that can afford to be in the Bay Area, they're staying in the Bay Area. Jobs aside, I mean, we have weather, the natural beauty, convenience, healthcare. I mean, these all play a part in why people want to stay here. So who are the buyers? I mean, back in 2013 through 2016, we had a ton of foreign investment in the Bay Area. It was listed with a couple other areas in the world as particularly popular for foreign investors. I still see that to a degree, but I see a lot less of that now than I did in previous years. Many of the buyers that I've been working with are first-time home buyers and move-up buyers, either because of space, school district, lifestyle. Buyers are moving when possible. Now, in terms of financing, I didn't see as many all-cash offers in the last year as in previous years. Even when I say that, people are shocked that people are paying multiple millions of dollars in all cash, and that has been common. But in 2021, I think many people that were able to pay all cash chose not to, because with the interest rates so low and money being so cheap, people leveraged their finances as much as possible. And with the stock market being up so much, many people had made investments and received stock through employers that they were able to move that into their down payment to make their home purchase. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, 2022 predictions. Now I know I'm sandbagging you because I already have 2 full months to go off of. But honestly, my opinion is exactly the same as it was when I started giving this thought back in November. This current market feels exactly the same as the beginning of 2018, which up to now was the most competitive year that I've experienced in my 15 years. And 2021 ended the same way that 2017 ended, with prices being as high in December as they were during the summer. That year, the market was insanely competitive and prices rose quickly through May before coming to a screeching halt. I expect the same thing to happen in 2022. Prices can't continue to rise this fast and sustain that through the entire year. And since then, now you add a war and stock market volatility to that mix. But even yesterday, I submitted 3 separate offers, or 15 to 17 offers on each of these properties, one going for $100,000 over the last comparable sale. So things are not changing yet. So 1, expect a crazy first half of the year, and I think a calmer second half, although not a big adjustment on price. 2nd, expect interest rates to increase. This has already started happening. Rates have increased about 0.75% in just the last couple weeks. And the Fed has said that they plan to do this multiple times over the course of the year, and mortgage rates are going to follow that. Now, this by itself is going to limit the max price that people can afford when they're getting loans. 3rd, expect this low inventory to continue. This isn't just a Bay Area issue, this is a national issue. Now, inventory is starting to increase now, but it's still barely keeping up with the demand. I thought a few years back, as prices hit all-time high, year after year, that more people would start to take advantage of it, especially people that have been in their home for 30 plus years and cash out and take advantage of it, but many haven't, and I think likely still won't. So Prop 19, that came into effect in 2021. That allows California residents to move and keep their Prop 13 tax basis anywhere in the state, not just in the participating counties. That's how it previously went, but it's a great thing to take advantage of if you're moving within the state. But I just see many people deciding to stay put because we do have so much to offer in the Bay Area. So if you're a buyer, be prepared for fierce competition and some heartbreak, but know that your time will come. Sellers expect the best opportunity to be in the first half of this year, but also recognize that trying to time the real estate market, it is nearly impossible, and you need to make your decision for the right reasons. Don't just sell because you know prices are high without having a plan of where you're going to move to next. And don't write crazy high offers on properties that you don't even want to live in. And there are strategies that I talk through with my clients, both on the buying side and the selling side, to determine the best approach for their specific situation. If you're in that boat, I'd love to get together with you and have that conversation. So reach out to me. Let's make 2022 a fantastic year.